Chapter 14. The next three questions raised by Gao Ling were not unexpectedly answered by Bai Jing and Ning Yuxuan. Ning Yuxuan answered one more question by taking advantage of the order, with a proud expression as if she had won the battle. Humph. She just said that she will never lose to someone from a slum. Ning Yuxuan raised her head high, her slender neck straight, and defiantly looked at Bai Jing, who was sitting in front of her. With Bai Jing's keen perception, he naturally noticed the real gaze behind him, but he didn't care. He answered questions just to test and consolidate what he had learned. At present, the schoolwork is heavy, and he has no time to care about a little girl of 14 or 5 years old. Without getting even a single look, Ning Yuxuan's reddish eyes stared at Bai Jing's back, as if she had punched cotton. This person dared to ignore her. When was the girl who had been spoiled since childhood been ignored like this? Her face flushed red for a while, and tears welled up with anger. She could only bite her lips, stubbornly not letting the tears fall. Woohoo, she remembered, this assessment is waiting to be seen. The people behind them also became numb from the shock at the beginning. Answering a question can be said to be a fluke, and answering it correctly twice in a row. Everyone's eyes on Bai Jing changed. They lowered their heads to cover their swollen faces, and had to admit the fact that they were inferior to others. The growth rate of this young man is simply too terrifying. Gao Ling glanced at Bai Jing, who was sitting in the first row, with relief. A slight smile appeared on his serious face, and at the same time he sighed in his heart. He had misunderstood before. The young man was a piece of uncut jade, and now it has bloomed with dazzling brilliance after polishing, and it will become a great thing in time. Gao Ling retracted his gaze, turned on the virtual image, and systematically reviewed the knowledge points he had learned last week before continuing with today's lesson. This week we are going to learn about the judgment of wool pine flowers. Pine blossoms refer to the faintly visible patches and bands of dried moss on the skin of wool. According to the depth, shape, direction, number, and density of the color of the pine flower, the depth, direction, size, and shape of the green in the pine flower can be inferred. Generally, there are band-shaped pine flowers, point-shaped pine flowers, filament-shaped pine flowers, and strip-shaped pine flowers. He projected the wool with the shape of these pine flowers in a holographic mode in turn, and explained it bit by bit against the real object. As usual, Bai Jing took out a thick notebook from his backpack and turned to the blank space to prepare detailed records. In just 1 week, he had already written down a book full of notes, and at this time he took out a brand new note. Jin Mao also learned from Bai Jing and bought a large notebook. At this time, he took it out with a grin and followed the other side to record. Since Bai Jing answered 2 difficult questions in a row, he has become the focus of everyone's eyes. Eyes from all directions have been lingering on him, wondering why the other party has made such rapid progress. Seeing Bai Jing take out the old notebook at this time, these young men and women did not laugh as usual, but pondered. Cough. No, it can't go on like this. How can these rich children be suppressed by people from commoner backgrounds? It's too embarrassing. On the same day, the only shop on Star Online that sells ancient Earth stationery suddenly received a batch of orders, 200 notebooks and 1,000 gel pens? It's really weird. The owner muttered a few words in doubt, but he was relieved. At least the store could continue to open. The shop he opened is called For Treasures of the Study, which was handed down from his ancestors and specialized in selling stationery from the ancient Earth. But with the popularity of optical brains, except for the occasional few people who are curious or like to collect ancient Earth supplies, who will buy paper objects now? Seeing that the business has become more and more bleak in the past few months, the owner sighed and planned to give up the family inheritance, but he did not expect a timely rain when it was about to close down. The sales of ancient Earth stationery are not high and cannot be mass-produced, so the price of each item in the store is not low. Each notebook is priced at 800 to 1,200 star coins, and each gel pen is priced at 200 stars currency. This batch of orders brought him an income of 400,000 stars and a net profit of nearly 200,000, enough to last for 2 more years. The shop owner, who is barely making a living, will never imagine that one day in a few years, his shop will become popular on Quanxing.com overnight, attracting countless people. Not to mention a profit of 200,000 yuan. A profit of 20 million yuan is not a problem, just because it is the only God-level stone gambler in the entire Interstellar, a used notebook. The next day, Bai Jing still came to the training room early and found a thin boy with dark skin sitting not far from his seat. Seeing Bai Jing approaching, the boy stood up awkwardly, lowered his head and stammered, "Hello. My name is Ngu. Can I sit next to you and listen to the lecture?" "Yes, it's your right." There is a seat between the boy and him, and he will not disturb himself. Bai Jing put the backpack away, turned on the light brain and notes, and continued to learn the contents of the chip. "Thank you." After Ngu sat down, he gently pressed his hand on his chest, feeling his heart beating wildly. He finally mustered up the courage to come to the idol he worshipped, but fortunately the other party did not refuse. Not long after, the little fat man Jean Mao, who had always been stuck, also walked into the training room. He greeted Ngu very familiarly and sat down on the other side of Bai Jing, like two bodyguards, sandwiching Bai Jing from left to right. When the class was about to start, everyone took out the notebooks they had just bought yesterday, and they were lined up on the table. "Damn it! Why did you buy it?" "If I want to buy it, I can buy it." "What's the matter? The store is not opened by your family." "Huh, luckily the cover is different." They deliberately lowered their voices, not wanting to let Bai Jing know, so as not to lose face. But how could Bai Jing not hear their communication with his keen perception? The corners of her pale lips twitched involuntarily. As soon as Gao Ling entered the classroom, he felt a different atmosphere than before. He found that these noble disciples had restrained their cynical expressions in the past. Seeing the transformation of the students, Gao Ling was particularly impressed with his lectures today. The whole morning's lectures were very smooth and completed in one go, and his serious face unconsciously revealed a bit of a smile. These noble men and women usually use the optical brain to record automatically, rarely write in person, and they are in a hurry for a while. But after getting familiar with it, they found that handwriting can really remember knowledge points more clearly, and it is easy to convert into their own language when recording, thereby deepening memory. Studies have shown that handwriting can help activate larger areas of the brain, including those responsible for language, thinking, and memory. Not only that, but in order to record the knowledge points completely, the teenagers straightened their backs one by one and kept their eyes straight. They were a little more serious and hardworking than before, thus forming positive feedback and achieving the effect of getting twice the result with half the effort. At the end of the day, these rich kids shook their numb hands, looked at the dense fonts on the notebook, and couldn't help being stunned. "God, did you really write this yourself?" An unprecedented sense of fulfillment and satisfaction overflowed from their chests and surrounded them, and this feeling even made some of them fall in love with learning ever since. What's wrong with studying? Learning is also a pleasure, and learning is also addictive. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye, most of the course has been completed. With the gradual deepening of the course, everyone felt exhausted and had to increase their study time. Fatty Jean Mao even yawned several times in class, attracting Gao Ling's stern gaze. "Well," Jean Mao quickly covered his half-yawned mouth, raised his hand to wipe away the tears from the corners of his eyes, and tried to concentrate. I really can't blame him. The content of yesterday's study was too complicated. He looked at his notes and saw it in the middle of the night. He only slept for 4 or 5 hours, and his natural state was not good. Not only him, many people in the class were listless. Even Ning Yuxuan's face was a little sleepy. Some students stared straight at the woolen image, but their thoughts had long since drifted to where they had gone. Half of these people are not because they are not serious, but because they have not understood. The previous knowledge has fallen too much, and we can only take time to make up, but time is already tight, and the process of making up the previous knowledge is now left behind, gradually forming a vicious circle. Until this time, they didn't regret it. The early courses were not difficult at all, and they were all basic things. Why didn't they listen to the lectures at that time? On the other hand, Bai Jing's foundation is so poor, but now he has made rapid progress. I don't know how many times he is stronger than them. At this time, in the entire training room, only Bai Jing was still in high spirits. His eyes were clear, and he was not affected by the people around him at all. The black nib swipes quickly on the white paper, leaving a line of beautiful lines, and the font is neat and generous, which is pleasing to the eye. The fingers holding the pen were slender and fair, with a touch of pink on the fingertips, which was a bit prettier than the font. Jean Mao turned his head to see Bai Jing's ease. His eyes were full of longing and envy. His idol must be a genius. But what he didn't know was that during this period of time, Bai Jing spent all the rest of his time studying, apart from ensuring 3 hours of sleep a day, with an unparalleled level of hard work. Bai Jing knows that his foundation is weak, so he never gets distracted in the class and always maintains a state of high concentration. His brain works frantically, desperately absorbing the content of the lecture and trying to grasp all the knowledge points on the spot. In this way, you only need to review and consolidate it again after you go back, and you don't have to spend too much time. With his super learning ability and memory, he had already read 2/5 of the content of the chip during this period of time. It is no exaggeration to say that his current mastery of basic knowledge is as good as anyone else's. Gao Ling looked at the sleepy crowd in the audience, knowing that they couldn't absorb it any longer. So he simply took a day off and let them go back and have a good rest. After the students cheered and left, a video message suddenly popped up on Gao Ling's brain. He looked solemn when he saw it and immediately connected President Zhua. The pop-up screen showed the image of a middle-aged man. The man was probably in his 30s, with a straight appearance, dressed in the same clothes as Gao Ling, and the word Lu was marked on the silver badge on his chest, indicating that he was a respected 6th-level stone gambler. At the same time, this person is also the president of the Proxima branch of the Stone Gambling Association. Chairman Zhua smiled and said, "Long time no see, Gao Ling. Did you bother you in class?" Gao Ling, "No, I just gave the students a holiday." President Zhua, "How about it? Are there any good students in this class?" Generally halfway through the course, when the difficulty increases, there will be obvious differences in students' performance, which is why he asks this question. Gao Ling pondered for a moment. "President, this class of students really worked hard. It's hard to tell until the last moment. However, there are 2 people who performed very well. I believe they will pass the assessment." President Zhua was a little surprised. "Oh? Who are these 2 people who can make you admire them so much?" Gao Ling was a serious person and rarely said such affirmative words, so he must be very optimistic about the 2 of them. Gao Ling, one is Ning Yuxuan, the youngest daughter of the Ning family, and the other is a boy named Bai Jing. The youngest daughter of the Ning family? Well, it is not surprising that the Ning family is the 2nd largest wool miner in Proxima Centauri. Chairman Zhua pondered. What is the identity of that young man named Bai Jing? It seems that I have never heard of an aristocratic family with the surname Bai. A smile appeared on Gao Ling's serious face. President, he is from a commoner. Chairman Zhua was a little surprised when he heard the words. Civilian background? That's really a good seedling. The commoners are no better than these noble children. The educational resources they receive can only be said to be average, and they can reach the level of being praised by the other party, which shows their talent and diligence. He looked at Gao Ling, and his tone was a little serious. We must train these 2 people well and strive to get a good ranking in the final assessment, but we can't lose face like last year. Just last year, the Proxima branch was the 3rd largest branch of the Stone Gambling Association, and none of the top 10 in the final assessment came from Proxima, and very few people passed through the entire planet, making President Zhua faceless. If this is the case this time, I am afraid that even the title of the 3rd largest branch will be handed over to others. How can President Zhua not be in a hurry?